disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So, you remember we've been showing you that in the Netherlands, there's been thousands upon thousands of farmers that have been protesting on new restrictions imposed on them to cut back emissions. So they say that this is somehow a gateway into reducing climate change. They're talking about the emissions in response to fertilization. But as we uncovered and we've exposed the story, and as this is developed, we know that is absolutely wrong. It's absolutely a fabrication. They're using it to mask the true implications of targeting the farmers, which is that billionaires like Bill Gates is buying up this farmland to cut agriculture underneath under its legs and kill all the farming industry in order to corporatize it and sell you processed foods. And considering the fact that Bill Gates owns a lot of asset in, this Beyond Beef, or whatever you like to call it, synthetic beef, is just showing the amount of corruption that's opposing on these farmers. So we've been showing you articles like this, for example, and obviously this is not getting the attention that it should be deserving for many different reasons, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that if we saw more of what the Dutch people are doing, or what the French people are doing in their counter protests against government tyranny, then that spreads. And we kind of had a taste of that with the truckers. We kind of had a taste of that when it came to the mandate protests, but not to the same discretion and degree that, the Netherlands are fighting for, or the same thing that, French people storming into BlackRock. We don't see that often. We don't see the workers uniting together to counteract on the tyranny and oppression of the oligarchy. We don't see that often. And that's because they wanted to keep us silent. So they told us that the reason for this is because of the emissions, and it's all be on the factors of climate change, which at first I thought, it seemed eerie. And then I looked into the story. I looked into what the emissions scandal was about, and they're imposing this also on Canada farmers. And what the interesting part about this, and how I knew this was complete crap, was they're targeting farmers. They're targeting the farming industry. Yet the farming industry relies on the environment. They're the most eco-conscious people because they need the environment. They need to understand the climate and the ways that it changes and the impacts of it in order to affect their industry. So, of course, they're already doing themselves a favor by going green, or looking at efficiency and looking at ways to reduce their footprint. Obviously, that goes without saying. But this is the fact that this is a government takeover colliding with corporations to take over family-run farms. And these farms have been around for centuries and decades and generation after generation that have been suffocated through this. And they're about to lose their businesses. They're about to lose everything for corporate consolidation. And here's the outcome that it's going to bring. So, like I said, Bill Gates plays a factor into this because of this. This is from Slay magazine. I didn't even know there was a publication called that. But it says, Bill Gates' lab-grown synthetic meat approved for U.S. public consumption. Synthetic meat. That's the plant-based meat, and you know for a fact it's not the plant that's actually good for you. Anytime you see a plant-based meat product or meat byproduct, it's not a vegetarian option. Let's just say that. When they mean plant, they don't mean a growing out of the ground organically plant. They mean the kind of plants that you suffocate through pollution. And that's what Bill Gates is imposing. as a result to reduce climate change. Isn't that kind of ironic? That the man that's trying to reduce climate change by attacking farmers is creating synthetic meat chemicals in a plant that's exposing toxins into the air. Isn't that ironic? The man that's going to try to reduce climate change is actually doing worse for the climate, doing worse for the environment, because this is causing way more pollution than any farm could ever produce. So, the article goes on by saying Democrat President Joe Biden administration has granted approval for Bill Gates' lab-grown synthetic meat to be sold in the United States for public consumption. In an unprecedented move, the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA, approved the sale of lab-grown chicken meat on Wednesday. Why are they even trying? Why are they even trying? This is the thing that annoys the hell out of me when it comes to this. And this all started, and I'm going to give a bit of a personal story to this. So, Subway the sandwich shop, which probably everybody knows and has one in their neighborhood. Subway announced once upon a time, and I don't know if they still do, that they were going to introduce meatless meatballs in response to plant-based meat and plant-based protein. And that, when I saw a poster in front of the sandwich shop, I literally want to run in and yell to them how ridiculous that sounds. I didn't obviously do it because I didn't want to actually make a scene and look ridiculous. But think about that for a second, how ridiculous that sounds. Meatless meatball. If you don't have a ball of meat, it's not a meatball. It's just ball. Why are you calling it a meatless meatball when it doesn't even make sense? It's like a Jerry Seinfeld skit right here. Like, words have meanings. Anyway, that just started this whole fiasco, and then I just saw more and more of this, and I'm just like, this is insane. This is insane. And I hear people like, oh, well, it's a healthier option. No, it's not. No, it's not. The amount of chemicals, the amount of sodium that's in it, the amount of synthetics that are into this. People don't realize that your synthetic burger contains the same carbonates and the same chemicals used to make rubber tires. They don't realize that. They don't take the time to actually look at where the product is actually being made. And this is being rolled out by the co-founder of Microsoft, because who better to understand food and nature and vaccines and everything else than the evil sociopath who doesn't even know how to code his own programs? And that's not me saying that. That's people at Microsoft. So, U.S. regulators gave the go-ahead to two California-based companies, Upside Food and Good Meat. Upside Foods, formerly Memphis Meats, is funded by Microsoft co-founder Gates. The approval from regulators will allow the companies to flood the U.S. food supply with their controversial products. The companies have been racing to be the first in the United States to sell meat that doesn't come from slaughtered animals. They branded this controversial new product as cell-cultivated or cultured meat. How very diverse. This announcement that we're able to produce and sell cultivated meat in the United States is a major moment for our company, the industry, and the food system, said Josh Tarek, CEO of Eat Just, Good Meat's parent company. While the companies and regulators claim the development is a step toward eliminating harm to animals and reducing environmental impacts, critics remain unconvinced. Instead of all that land and all that water that's used to feed all of our animals and that are slaughtered, we do it a different way. Yes, instead of actually having a natural process to things, we're going to take that farmland, put a giant smelting chemical plant on it, and synthetically impose a bunch of food products to shove down your throats. Because that's more natural and environmentally friendly than the agricultural system that's been around since the dawn of humanity. Like I think being a farmer is one of the oldest professions to ever had. That and being a prostitute, but that's a different story. Um, these optimistic claims seem to overshadow the stark realities of this process. Cultivated meat is developing by growing animal stem cells in a nourishing medium and a bioreactor. The end product mimics the appearance and taste of traditional meat. According to PBS, for the Bill Gates Upside food, the end product comes out in large sheets shaped like into items like chicken cutlets and sausage. Good Meat, which already sells cultivated meat in Singapore, transforms chicken cells into a variety of forms such as cutlets, nuggets, and shredded meat. However, the public should exercise caution before embracing this so called innovation. Not only does this advancement raise ethical and potential health concerns, gee, you think? But it also brings into question the substantiability of this method. The rush to bring lab-grown meats to market may be premature without comprehensive understanding of its long-term environmental impact, economic feasibility, and potential health risks. As it stands, the Agricultural Department's approval feels more like a roaring leap into the unknown rather than a confident step forward for sustainability and animal welfare. And again, this is exactly how I felt when they imposed these emission laws to farmers. They're not putting these emission laws on the private jet owners that go over to Davos and decide these crazy shenanigan laws. They don't impose it on that. They don't impose the billionaires that, deforest an entire ecosystem so they can build a multi-million-dollar mansion. They don't do that. But they're going to demonize farmers who are already the most eco-conscious industry for raising greenhouse gases by planting, which plants help reduce carbon dioxide. It remains to be seen whether consumers will readily accept meat that swaps the farmyard for the laboratory. The meat industry and farming as a whole have come under increasing attacks from radical claims of their supposed carbon emissions. Nations all around the world, including America, have vowed to crack down on the farming industry to fight climate change. Cracking down on farmers to make processing plants. Like, this is the exact opposite of helping the environment. This is the exact opposite. And I can think of a million different other options, healthier, better, more sustainable options and answers to actually improve the environment than any of the stuff that they're spewing out, any of this garbage. Because all this is about controlling the industry. Bill Gates wants to control the agricultural industry. They want to control the food system. They want to control every single aspect from the moment you eat, the moment you look at something, the moment you read something, the moment you sleep, the moment you inject something. They want to control every aspect of your lifestyle. As Slay News reported, the Biden administration has signed a global agreement with 12 other nations to crack down on farming to save the planet from global warming. Again, you're going to crack down on people that are planting. They're putting plants down in the ground to grow and fertilize naturally, reducing the carbon in our atmosphere through a natural process. You're going to demonize that and then allow synthetic chemical plants to pop up magically to change our food system. How does that make sense to anybody? How does that make sense to anybody? The agreement, led by the United States, has also signed by several major cattle and food producing states, including Australia, Germany, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Spain. The nation signed into a commitment to place farmers under new restrictions to reduce emissions of methane gas. But again, they're not reducing the restrictions on the military. The military, which is the biggest known polluter on Earth, the U.S. military empire, the ones that drone strike fishing villages, and people have to deal with the impacts of all these toxins. We don't ever reduce that. We don't ever talk about reducing their emissions. Or how about the 100 companies that we know are constantly polluting to this day? We don't talk about that. We don't talk about the Nord Stream explosion that's caused natural gas to pour into the oceans. None of that ever gets mentioned, but farmers have to be beaten down. All thanks to Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, and the billionaire class, bourgeois bankers at Davos that take private jets, take their own luxury Humvees, and tour around town like celebrities while trying to promote to save the planet. And this is, again, I support anything that we can do to help the environment, because the environment is such a influential force on us. This is about our survival, and helping us survive is not going to come from these bourgeois billionaires. It's going to come from thoughtful individuals and grassroots movements, and actually relying on the farmers to help us rather than demonizing them. So that's what leads into this. And this is from Capitan Johnson. Or Johnson. Capitan Johnson. I think that's right. It's a French name. Capitan. Who said this, and this actually happened over in the Netherlands. So Bill Gates' factory that produces lab-grown synthetic meat burns down. This actually happened. So the laboratory that made the synthetic meat burnt down. The indecent odors, in a context of discomfort on the part of Dutch farmers against the excessive climate laws that the government wants to promote. And the thing is, when this fire was going on, the amount of emissions coming out of that factory and the smoke and all these synthetic chemicals that are rising up did more permanent damage to that nation than any farmer. And they still want to demonize the agricultural industry. And they've been trying to do this for years. This is nothing new. But what is amazing and interesting is that farmers, working class people, are gathering together and occupying streets because they're saying enough is enough. And it's happening in the Netherlands, it's happening in India, it's happening in Canada, it's happening in America, it's happening in all the nations that they know that these laws are completely against them and against the people. And they know, and people know, if we don't have farmers, we don't have sustainability farming in our everyday life, then our everyday lifestyle is done. If we don't have farmers, we don't eat. We don't have sustainability. We don't have cities. People have to flourish elsewhere to find food, to find sustainability. And if they can't do that, then humanity as we know it would not exist. This is why this is such a big deal, but they try to hide this for so long. They tried to hide this for so long because you're never going to see this on CNN. You're never going to see this on MSNBC. You're never going to see this on any publication or any news outlet. But a shoestring podcast, Canadian Kid, is going to show you this because it's important. I respect the farmers. I love the farmers because they contribute more to the communities and more to everyday people than people even realize. Compared to Bill Gates or Klaus Schwab or any of the idiots, any of the bourgeois, out of touch billionaire class that could not care less. Could not care less. And maybe that's why they're so invested in, populating Mars. I don't know. Maybe that's just a theory of mine. That the reason why they want to go to Mars and find all this water and sustainability is because, once they screw over this planet and all of humanity here just dies off, they'll just fly over there. They'll start their own civilization. They'll just have, peacefulness on a red planet. Meanwhile, people just want decency. And decency comes from people like farmers, not Bill Gates.